In this video, you will watch things women do when they know you're Sigma. Weird things women do when they know you're Sigma?
Here's a strange little phenomenon you may have noticed in your own life, but perhaps never had the words for. Every group has that one man who doesn't try, yet still becomes the quiet center of gravity. No spotlight, no dramatic entrance, no effort to impress. And still, people shift when he walks in, as if something in the room just changed frequency. Ever wonder why? There is something quietly powerful about a man who never feels the need to announce his presence. Yet the atmosphere subtly rearranges itself the moment he enters. He doesn't chase praise, he doesn't perform for attention, and he doesn't contort himself to fit anyone's expectations. In a world overflowing with noise, competition, and constant displays for validation, the Sigma male moves differently, calm, self-contained, and grounded in an independence that commands attention without begging for it. Women notice this instantly, not because he's loud or flashy, but because of the contrast he creates just by being himself. They can sense he isn't carrying an emotional void he needs someone else to fill. His identity isn't built on approval, and that alone creates curiosity. It disrupts the social rhythm they're used to. Psychologists call this the power of non-reactive behavior, a type of quiet internal control that draws people in. When a man doesn't rush to prove himself, doesn't react to every impulse, and doesn't crumble under pressure, his presence gives off a stability that's rare. For many women who are used to men pushing too hard or trying too desperately, the Sigma becomes an anomaly. He steps back instead of pushing forward. He observes instead of competing. He waits with calm confidence instead of scrambling for attention. And make no mistake, that waiting isn't weakness. It is the mark of a man who knows exactly who he is. Throughout history, true strength has often come from restraint, not noise. Marcus Aurelius, for example, ruled with quiet discipline, not dramatic charisma. Even in modern times, the men who speak the least often get listened to the most, because their silence builds weight and their words land with intention. Women respond to this in ways they rarely even understand. Their body language shifts, their tone changes, their reactions become unpredictable. They hesitate, adjust, contradict themselves because deep down they're sensing something uncommon. A presence that doesn't seek validation. A man who cannot be easily read or influenced. A stillness that unsettles and attracts at the same time. So today, let's break down 6 subtle, fascinating behaviors women display when they realize they're in the presence of a Sigma male. Behaviors that reveal just how deeply this quiet energy affects them. Before we dive in, tell me this in the comments. Do you think women notice your silence more or your presence more? Which one speaks louder in your life? Number 1. Women seek his validation indirectly. The dynamics shift even more here. Unlike with other men, where compliments might be openly asked for or teased out, women tend to search for a Sigma's approval in far more subtle ways. They adjust their hair when he walks in, mention small achievements in passing, or bring up their new outfit without directly asking for feedback. These gestures are not random. They're signals, quiet invitations to see if he notices. And the reason they behave this way is simple. A Sigma's attention is selective. Where most men throw compliments around like confetti, the Sigma's silence creates a different kind of energy. His approval feels earned, not handed out casually. The contrast between his restraint and the world's constant noise makes his recognition rare, and that rarity makes it valuable. Psychologists call this the power of selective attention. Humans are wired to care deeply about who notices them and who doesn't. Women, being especially perceptive, pay close attention to subtle cues. Where his eyes linger, whether he acknowledges their effort, if he remembers something they said days earlier. A Sigma's quiet mind picks up details others miss, but he doesn't express it through constant words. Instead, he stores those observations and reveals them when it truly matters. This creates a strange and powerful effect. His minimal words carry maximum impact. This restraint echoes ancient traditions where the highest value men were respected for speaking sparingly and observing deeply. Modern psychology even supports this, linking fewer but more intentional reactions to higher emotional intelligence. For women, the sigma's validation feels different. Slower, quieter, but more genuine. A lingering glance, a small nod, a comment made later that proves he was paying attention the whole time. In a world full of empty flattery, authenticity becomes the rarest form of attraction. Number 2, they open up faster than expected. There's a moment many people don't notice until it's already happening. A moment when a woman suddenly feels comfortable enough to speak more openly than she expected. And strangely enough, it usually happens around a sigma male. His silence is not empty. It creates room, space for honesty, and a kind of quiet warmth that invites vulnerability without him ever needing to ask for it. Psychologists have a name for the feeling he naturally creates. It's called psychological safety, a climate where people feel accepted, respected, and unafraid of being judged. Harvard professor Amy Edmondson, who introduced this concept, explains that individuals open up faster when they sense they won't be criticized or dismissed. A sigma, with his calm presence and non-reactive nature, gives off exactly that signal. But it's not his silence alone that creates this effect. It's the quality of that silence. In communication science, experts separate passive listening from active listening. Anyone can passively listen, just standing there while someone talks. But active listening is a different skill entirely. It involves subtle eye contact, small nods, a slight tilt of the head, and an awareness that shows, I'm here, I'm present, I'm listening. Sigma males naturally drift toward this second style without even realizing it. They don't rush to fill every empty second in a conversation. They let pauses breathe. And those pauses, strangely enough, work like invitations. Humans dislike silence. It makes us reveal more, dig deeper, or explain ourselves. Research even shows that when someone truly feels heard, the brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. It's the same chemical responsible for trust between partners, friends, and even mothers and infants. So when a woman feels that non-judgmental presence of a sigma, her mind and body unconsciously label him as safe, someone she can trust faster than she initially planned. Yet there's another layer to this dynamic, something quieter but just as powerful. His restraint intrigues people. In a world where many men rush to impress, talk loudly, crack constant jokes, or oversell themselves, the sigma's stillness feels like an unexpected contrast. Psychologists call this the contrast effect. When someone behaves completely differently from what people expect, they stand out without trying. His silence becomes mysterious. His observations feel intentional. And his calm makes others lean in closer, trying to understand him. What looks like him doing very little is actually one of the strongest social advantages a man can have. He creates space. Not manipulative space, not forced silence, but a natural quietness rooted in introspection. Throughout history, the people who mastered silence, monks, thinkers, leaders, even ancient philosophers, were often the ones others gravitated toward. Marcus Aurelius wrote endlessly about listening before speaking, and the sigma male mirrors that principle effortlessly in modern life. So when women open up to a sigma faster than they ever expected, it's not because he uses charm or flashy behavior. It's because his very presence invites truth. His quiet strength signals, you can be yourself here. No performance required. And in a world obsessed with noise, that is unbelievably rare. Number 3, they begin mirroring his calm energy. Mirroring is one of the most fascinating and unnoticed psychological behaviors in human interaction. It's the subconscious imitation of someone else's gestures, posture, or tone. Studies in social psychology show that mirroring builds trust and connection without anyone consciously intending it. Friends often sit the same way. Couples speak at a similar rhythm. People on the same wavelength align naturally. When a woman encounters a sigma male, the effect becomes even more noticeable. His grounded, unhurried presence breaks the usual push and pull dynamic of conversation. He doesn't dominate, brag, or perform. He simply is, and that steadiness influences the atmosphere around him. Women may find themselves softening their tone, slowing their pace, or pausing more often, unconsciously syncing with his rhythm. It is not forced. It is not strategic. It is the body's way of saying, "This feels safe. This feels real." Neuroscience explains why mirror neurons in the brain fire not only when we act, but when we observe someone else acting. They allow us to empathize, connect, and intuitively match someone's emotional energy. When a woman senses a sigma's calmness, her nervous system shifts. Stress eases. Tension melts. She becomes more authentic, less performative. Experiments in leadership psychology show that groups exposed to a calm, confident individual often mirror that composure, resulting in more cooperation and less emotional volatility. The sigma embodies this effortlessly. He doesn't need to dominate a room to influence it. His presence alone adjusts the emotional climate. And what makes this dynamic powerful isn't just science. It's the experience women describe. He makes them feel unusually seen, understood, and comfortable in their own skin. His quiet strength invites authenticity. And in a world full of performance, that invitation is magnetic. Number 4. They subtly test his boundaries. A sigma's calm detachment is one of the most intriguing and misunderstood traits he carries. In a world full of men competing for approval, showering praise, or overextending themselves to earn affection, he remains composed, observant, deliberate. And naturally, this quiet power draws attention, especially from women who are familiar with men who chase validation. But this same detachment creates confusion. Unlike the predictable gestures of other men, the sigma's silence leaves questions lingering in the air. Is he really this centered, or is he pretending? Is he uninterested, or simply unbothered? Psychologists call this the strength of non-reactivity, the ability to remain emotionally steady under pressure. When someone doesn't flinch at teasing, silence, or rejection, they project a level of inner control that is rare. Women, being intuitive, often test this stability. They may tease him lightly, delay a response, throw a playful challenge his way, or create small moments designed to spark emotion. Not out of malice, but as an instinctive way to measure what's beneath the surface. Is his calmness real, or is it a mask waiting to crack? The sigma stands apart for one reason: consistency. He doesn't grab at every hook. He doesn't start performing to regain approval. His reactions remain steady, grounded, and genuine. This is because his calm isn't an act, it's his baseline. Behavioral psychology research shows that people who rely on internal validation rather than external praise are less anxious, more resilient, and more capable of handling social pressure. Women feel this, and it creates a paradox. His detachment can frustrate them because they can't predict him, but it also attracts them because they can't influence him through typical social games. Evolutionary psychology connects traits like emotional control and stability with leadership and reliability, qualities historically found in capable protectors and providers. Without raising his voice or demanding attention, the sigma reveals these traits simply by being himself. And the longer the tests continue, the more his unshakable consistency proves one thing: his composure is real, and that authenticity is magnetic. Women find themselves intrigued, even unsettled, by his lack of neediness, and that mystery alone sets him apart from nearly everyone else. Number 5. They become protective of his attention. Even when a sigma isn't trying to flirt, women often begin guarding his attention around others, sometimes without realizing they're doing it. His calm independence creates a gravitational pull, and once they feel it, they don't want to lose it. That's why you may notice subtle behaviors, leaning closer when he talks, redirecting conversations toward themselves, interrupting others who try to dominate the moment, or repositioning themselves physically to keep his focus. They're not trying to control him. They're trying to protect the connection they feel with him. A connection that is rare, grounding, and not easily replaced. Because attention from a man who doesn't need anyone is attention worth holding on to. Not every action women take around a Sigma male is intentional or planned out. More often than not, these behaviors rise instinctively, almost like the mind reacting to something rare in the room. Because being around someone who doesn't ask for attention yet naturally commands it creates a silent tension. Psychologists often refer to this effect as scarcity value. The idea that whatever is uncommon becomes instantly precious. And a Sigma's refusal to perform, entertain, or seek approval amplifies that scarcity more than anything he says out loud. In most social settings, people are used to men who chase, flatter, compete, or constantly try to win attention. But a Sigma does the opposite. He stays still, composed, and reveals nothing unless he chooses to. For women who usually receive attention without asking, this reversal feels strange at first, almost unsettling. But the more unexpected it is, the more intriguing it becomes. It disrupts the usual script. Suddenly, they aren't being pursued, they start paying attention to him. This instinct has deep roots in human history. Evolutionary psychology suggests that throughout time, the individuals who could remain calm under pressure and resist the pull of the crowd were viewed as stronger and more capable leaders. Even today, women pick up on these cues without consciously thinking about it. A Sigma's non-reactive energy, his quiet composure, signals emotional steadiness and inner strength, traits linked with intelligence, resilience, and strong decision-making. Research in social psychology even shows that calm confidence is often mistaken for high social status. That perception alone sparks an instinct to protect his attention, almost as if his focus is a limited resource they don't want slipping away. And this dynamic isn't simply biological. Culture plays its part too. We live in a world where everyone broadcasts themselves loudly, constantly proving, performing, and promoting. And in the middle of all that noise, the man who chooses silence becomes the one people notice the most. His quiet independence becomes a spotlight without him ever stepping onto a stage. Women feel this contrast deeply. It heightens their awareness of him and stirs an instinct to guard the small moments when he gives them his attention. What's fascinating is that the Sigma never initiates any of this. He doesn't need tactics or tricks. His silence, his refusal to chase approval, and his unwavering independence create a gravitational pull on their own. Women may lean closer, cut off someone else mid-sentence, or bring the conversation back to themselves just to keep his focus. Not because he's playing games, but because authenticity is magnetic in a world starving for it. In the end, this entire dynamic reveals something powerful. True influence rarely comes from being the loudest in the room, but from being the most grounded. Number 6. They struggle to define him. Perhaps the most unusual reaction women experience around the Sigma male is their inability to categorize him. Human beings are wired to sort others quickly. Psychologists call this social categorization, a mental shortcut that lets us decide how to respond to someone almost instantly. Extroverts usually get labeled as open and lively. Introverts get labeled as quiet or withdrawn. But the Sigma male doesn't fit cleanly into either box. He's not distant enough to be cold, yet not predictable enough to be easily understood. That in-between space creates a tension that both confuses and captivates women. They leave the interaction thinking about him, replaying small moments, analyzing his tone or his expressions long after he's gone. Some part of him stays with them, not because he tries, but because he refuses to settle into a simple definition. A large piece of this puzzle is his self-sufficiency. Unlike many men who seek reassurance or attention to feel valuable, the Sigma male draws validation from within. Social psychology research shows that individuals who seem self-contained naturally attract others. They project inner stability. Yet, ironically, the very independence that attracts also creates a mystery that's hard to solve. Women are used to reading cues, flirtation, eagerness, avoidance, anything that reveals whether a man is interested or not. But when they encounter someone who doesn't give away his intentions easily, curiosity begins to take root. They get hooked not on what he says, but on what he does not say. That's why some women describe him as unforgettable. Not loud, not flashy, but quietly unforgettable. Culture reflects this archetype everywhere. Think of classic characters like Mr. Darcy or Jay Gatsby. Their strength wasn't in constant expression, but in quiet depth. Their mystery made them compelling. And in real life, the Sigma male embodies the same energy. His unpredictability creates what psychologists call a variable reward system, the same principle behind what makes games addictive or social media so compelling. When someone can't easily predict how another person will behave, interest intensifies. The mind keeps returning, seeking answers that never fully arrive. This taps into a deeper psychological truth. Uncertainty amplifies attraction. Behavioral research consistently shows that people think more intensely about someone when the signals are mixed, subtle, or hard to read. This is the uncertainty principle of attraction, and the Sigma male embodies it without even trying. Because he doesn't fit into boxes, he becomes a puzzle. And human nature is irresistibly drawn to puzzles. Women replay conversations, dissect his reactions, and question his motives because he leaves mysteries instead of conclusions. His power doesn't lie in what he flaunts, but in what he quietly holds back. His confidence never needs volume. His value doesn't require a stage. His refusal to blend into the expectations of others becomes a riddle people instinctively want to solve. And long after he walks away, the questions he plants echo. At the center of it all, the Sigma's power is rooted in restraint. He moves with a steady, grounded assurance that demands no praise, no audience, no approval. Women sensing this respond in subtle yet telling ways. They observe, test, mirror, protect, lean in, and wonder. He doesn't manipulate the room. He simply lives aligned with who he truly is. And that is the ultimate lesson. You don't chase to be valued. You don't perform to be seen. When your character is undeniable, your silence becomes your influence. In a world drowning in noise, maybe the most magnetic force is a man who knows how to be quiet with purpose. If this resonated with you, stay connected to Epic Persona for more deep, grounded insights on masculine energy, psychology, and personal power. And let me know in the comments, which part of the Sigma mystery do you relate to the most?